Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Gabby and I am a content creator based here in New York, and I have a wedding series that I started last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. If you're new here, this is basically going to be my second wedding or sequel wedding, wedding part 2, however you want to call it. Essentially, my husband and I, we had our ceremony in New York a few years ago, and obviously with COVID and some immigration things, we had to push our wedding reception, everything else to a later year, which is going to be next year in the spring, and it's going to be in Hong Kong. So all of the wedding planning that we are doing is for that wedding, and it's going to be so exciting because we have our friends and family coming from all around the world, all gathering in Hong Kong to celebrate us together. So if you missed the whole story, the whole spiel of why we are having a second wedding, I'll link the video right here and also down below in the description so you are all caught up. So now that you are all caught up, I am going to talk about all the wedding venues that I toured throughout this whole entire year. And I'm going to show you every single place that we went to, and also what I loved about the venue and what I didn't love so much about the venue. Hopefully this will help you if you are planning on having a wedding in Hong Kong in the coming few months or years, whatever. Hope this serves as some inspo as well. So a lot of the venues in Hong Kong, pretty much all of them actually, are mainly in hotels. So for us, what we were looking for in a venue was a place that could host typically around 200 to 230 people. That was the number that we were looking at. And yes, you might think that's a huge number, but actually that's like considered a little small, especially in Hong Kong weddings. I think in a lot of Asian weddings, the guest count is typically on the higher end. A lot of the ballrooms that these hotels have, their typical capacity size is around like in the 400 to 500. Sometimes we saw a place that went up to 800 as well, like 800 people in one ballroom, which is a lot. So that is a little context for you. We were also looking for a venue that was at a convenient location. So most of these hotels were in a convenient location, but that was extra important to us because we have a lot of out-of-town guests who will be arriving probably in an Uber or a cab, but we also have a lot of guests who are locals, and it's probably easier for them to take like the subway, for example, or a bus if they wanted to. Or even if they were driving, you know, making sure that the location itself was convenient for them to find parking and whatnot. So that was definitely something that we valued. And then in terms of the venue itself, we were looking for a place that, you know, was a good balance between modern but also like luxurious, glamorous at the same time. Okay, so now that you have a little bit of context, let's get right into it. Okay, so the first venue that we looked at was Rosewood, and Rosewood is situated at Tsim Sha Tsui, which is on the Kowloon side of Hong Kong. So you have this gorgeous, gorgeous harborfront view. Like that view alone was just incredible. I mean, I was already thinking about like if we had our wedding here, like our out-of-town guests would just be in awe because, not to be biased or anything, but the Hong Kong harbor view is just absolutely breathtaking. Some of my favorite things about the venue was that there was a beautiful, beautiful white grand staircase. When you enter through the main doors, you are greeted with this gorgeous white staircase, and I just thought that that would be so beautiful for guests to take photos, but also for, you know, me and Nick as well to take our photos. So the way how they had their event space laid out was you would go up the staircase, or they also had elevators as well. You'll go up one floor and then you enter a cocktail reception area. I really liked the interior. I thought it was very modern, very luxurious. And one thing that I also really liked was that they had a outdoor like terrace area that had grass on it, and that was typically a space that was used for a ceremony. So that was really beautiful because if, you know, you want to do a ceremony and you want to make sure that it's all in the same venue, I think is a really good option just because it's just right off of the cocktail reception area. So after the ceremony, everyone can just go inside and have a drink before entering the ballroom. Okay, so the ballroom at Rosewood, of course, is immaculate. I will say though, it is massive. I think their ballroom can house around, I might be wrong, double check for sure, but I think it could house around like 700, 750 people. What they did for us, since we told them that our number was around 200, 230 range, was that they said they could actually split the ballroom in half so that you can still, you know, feel like the space was filled. When we went and we saw how it looked like split in half, it was still so big for us. But yeah, overall, Rosewood was my top choice at that very moment, even though it was the very first place that we saw. It was just so breathtaking. everything so gorgeous, luxurious, modern at the same time. They had a little speakeasy room. One of the walls could open up into a bar area, and they said that this area is really good for like an after party vibe if you wanted to. And I thought that was such a unique little element to the venue because, you know, I love an after party. With the pros comes the cons as well. So for us, honestly, the cons were very minimal. I think the main thing for us was that the ballroom was just a bit too big for our guest size. I wanted a place that didn't feel too big for the amount of guests that we were having. Even though it was an absolutely gorgeous ballroom, it was just too big, and that was really it. I just didn't want to have the ballroom overpower the amount of guests that we had. And that was it. But other than that, really like everything about Rosewood was pretty much exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so on to the next. Okay, so the next one was the Peninsula. And if you know anything about the Peninsula Hotel, it is one of the most iconic hotels. I think maybe the most iconic hotel in Hong Kong, just because it has a lot of history to it. It's always been like an icon for like glamour, luxury. One of the James Bond films, I forgot which one, but they filmed it at the Peninsula Hotel, so that's pretty cool too. So yeah, we went to go check out their wedding venue and definitely had a few things to say. So some of the pros was that it is obviously a very iconic hotel. They had a really good wedding package as well. Part of this package at the Peninsula was that you could also have a 4-hour chauffeur service in one of their Rolls Royce, specifically for the bride and groom. So I was like, that is sick. Like, I was just thinking about all the photos that we could take with a Rolls Royce, because I've never rode in one before, and I was just like, that's cool. So that was definitely a perk. Again, with the pros comes the cons. Some of the cons that we had was that although it was a very gorgeous and iconic hotel, some of the design inside, especially in the ballroom, felt a little bit outdated. Maybe it was just not our style. I also didn't like how the ballroom was in the basement floor, so there was no windows, so it just felt a little bit dark, a little bit stuffy for my taste. Again, you know, no tea or shade. It's just what we were looking for was some place that felt a little bit more open with a lot of like natural lighting as well. And then one other thing that we felt, you know, that this venue was not for us was that the floor plan was a little bit awkward. It wasn't one big ballroom. It was basically one big ballroom, but within the ballroom, it felt like there were little rooms inside, you know, with all the doors open. So a lot of the tables were kind of like in different rooms essentially. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, moving on to the third venue that we saw. So the third venue that we saw was the Four Seasons Hotel. Again, another gorgeous, iconic hotel as well. I really liked how it was right off of the harbor. So you also have a gorgeous view of the harbor view and also of Kowloon side as well. And you know, obviously the pros, like I really love the Four Seasons Hotel because I feel like they have a really good balance between, you know, being a luxurious 5-star hotel, but also being approachable at the same time. The interior felt so warm, so cozy, but also again, very luxurious at the same time. They had this gorgeous grand staircase as well that you see in the lobby, and it leads you up to the floor where the ballroom is. So just for reference, we viewed the two ballrooms that we had, the Grand Ballroom and also the Harbor View Ballroom. And we focused a lot more on the Harbor View Ballroom, but basically for this one, the ceilings again were so high. I loved the chandeliers. I thought they were so grand. And one thing that I thought was really, really great about the Four Seasons Hotel in Hong Kong was the location. So if you don't know, Four Seasons is right in this area called Central, which is basically like the business district of Hong Kong. So there's a ton of like subway stops in the area. There's a ton of buses, a lot of car parks, just a very convenient location for sure for all of our guests to get to. So the only thing about this venue in terms of the cons was just the cocktail reception area. Again, really like nothing to complain about. I think the only thing was just that the ceilings were a little bit low because, you know, obviously for me, I just love like a high ceiling, especially for a venue. But definitely I think the Harbor View Ballroom made up for the low ceiling in the cocktail area. Okay, and then last but not least, our very last venue that we toured was the St. Regis Hotel. So the St. Regis in Hong Kong is situated in Wan Chai. I believe it's also right by the harbor as well. And what I loved specifically about St. Regis was how it had a really strong tie to New York, because if I remember, it's a New York-based hotel. So I thought that was a really cute little detail, especially because our first wedding was in New York and we are living here and we're based here. So I always thought that that was a really cute little element. The interior was probably my favorite. Like, it was just so warm, so romantic, so glamorous at the same time. Andre Fu designed the space, and if you don't know, Andre Fu is a world-class designer. He did the Upper House, which is also in Hong Kong, and he just has that really gorgeous touch when it comes to interior design. But yeah, so I really love the space, like the hallway that guests will walk through. They walk through like a sky bridge. When I went, it was during the nighttime, so you couldn't really see, but it was really beautiful. Like, the hotel lined up the sky bridge with like these candles, which I thought was really romantic. And the cocktail area was also a really great like size. Again, high ceilings, lots of seating as well. So even though I absolutely loved the St. Regis, there are a few cons that just wanted to point out. The first one is the ballroom size. So the ballroom itself is stunning, like it's so beautiful, but it was just, instead of it being like a square shape, it was rectangular. It was a long ballroom. So that might work if you want to have a wedding with like a long table. But for us, we wanted to have, you know, circular tables, and with that type of a arrangement, it might be a little bit awkward because, you know, people who were sitting at the tables at the very end of the room might not be able to see, you know, me and Nick, who are on stage at the very end of the ballroom, just because of the rectangular shape. So we thought that that might be a little bit of a hurdle. And then the second con was that even though it was in Wan Chai, which is also another business district in Hong Kong, the specific location where the hotel was at might be a little bit inconvenient, especially for anyone who is arriving by car, which is probably majority of our guests, to be honest. The roads leading into the St. Regis is a little bit narrow. If I remember, it's also a lot of one-way roads too. So, you know, typically there was a lot of traffic or just a lot of like, you know, cars would be stuck there from time to time. So it would just be a little bit inconvenient, and we wouldn't want to have our guests go through that. But, you know, other than that though, like truly St. Regis it just like took my breath away. Like, I thought that it was so beautiful. It was really just those two, you know, cons that we were trying to think about if we can go through. But other than that though, like, you know, absolutely loved everything about the hotel. So that is it. Those are the 4 venues that we toured in Hong Kong for our spring 2024 wedding. I won't tell you which venue we chose just yet. Let me know what you think, which hotel that we went with. But I hope that this was helpful for you, especially if you are planning on having your wedding in Hong Kong and if you're trying to look for differences in all of these hotels. And of course, there are so many hotels and just wedding venues in general in Hong Kong. Like, there are a ton. But for us, we looked at these 4 because these were our top 4 hotels that we wanted to tour. So yeah, there's a ton of other hotels out there too in Hong Kong if you want to do your research. But till then, thank you so much again for watching. I'm so excited to just keep pushing out these videos specifically for the wedding series, because I love to just bring you all along with me and just going through all the planning process as well. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.